Good evening, everybody. I'm going to just do an update. This is April. Oh, it's going to be just an update, which I don't like to do. What is it? April 3rd, 2020. I'm a little upset at but then I'm going to talk about, being I got it on, some of the issues that I found very interesting dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. But I'm upset because I have all these different websites, and one of the sites called VK, which is a Russian site, which I had a lot of respect for. I did, but I started uploading videos to that site and sharing them, and the reason I did not use that function before was VK videos can only be seen or viewed by people that are on the site. So some sites work that way. Now I have the other Russian or Ukraine, I say Ukraine, but it's also a Russian site called OK, or OK. So I'm beginning to upload to that site. But the thing that upset me was I made a decision, even though the VK video site is limited, meaning you have to have a VK site in order to view my videos. I thought we have 6,000 friends, a little over 6,000 friends, and I thought it's okay, because those would be videos. They're all the same ones, but I got so many. But I figured if our friends on VK want to view them, because we have 6,000 friends, or did, it's worth making that little sacrifice, and I'll still share those VK links from my videos to all my sites. And of course, you'll get a notification, and that's the only video site that you would see that from, where it would say you have to join VK to view the video. Facebook and others, you have to join Facebook in order, to connect with people. But the video sites, the only one that had that limitation was VK. And what they did to me is, after I uploaded about 60 videos, today they blocked. Now I have a feeling I know why they did it, because my blog link, so it's an update I can talk about, my blog link, Corpus Christi Outreach Ministries, VK, for whatever reason, always gave a warning about the blog, and the blog is safe. It's my main site. So I put the link in the videos, thinking, well, if they permit it, the site is safe. And so instead of being upfront about it and saying you can't add that link, instead, they had a notification all day. It was like since this morning. It says, oh, your video is being uploaded. It should be ready in about an hour. And that's deceptive. I felt that's what people deal with when they're in authoritarian countries. They tell you what they want you to believe, instead of being upfront and saying, because I invested in that. And so it upset me. So I'm going to switch to the OK for videos. Now, being I'm talking a little bit, and this will go to VK through YouTube tonight, because I can share it over there. So that upset me. Instead of being upfront and saying, we don't want you to put your blog link on the site, they say, oh, it's taking some time. Now, it's interesting what's happened across the country and in our region with the COVID-19. There was one church in Robstown, I forget the name of the church, that pastor held services this past Sunday, which was against the decree of our local, I forget her title, Barbara Canales, the Nueces County judge, I believe. So Nueces County, following with the country, gave the rule that you can't have meetings of more than 10 people. Okay? So I noticed this church in Robstown. The Sheriff Hooper went out there, and they called it, they said they were going to bring charges against him because he was holding his services. Now, to a lot of the local pastors, I believe he took a good stand if it was his convictions. Meaning he said, I feel the word of God needs to go forth and so forth. Now, they did say this past week that they were looking at bringing criminal charges against that pastor in Nueces County. Okay? Then the Texas governor, Abbott, he came out because there might have been a lot of people complaining, or pastors or churches. And he said, we're going to allow churches to meet if they follow the social distancing guidelines, which is like 6 feet away. So I'm still, the local media as of this date, the date I gave you, did not clarify what they're going to do here. I believe some pastors, and I check, I'm a website person, so I check websites, how they develop them, and some are functional, but so I keep up with the local churches in that way. And I noticed some said, like, oh, we're praying about whether we're going to hold services or not. Others said, we're going to just abide by the, I'm sure it's their conscience, we're going to abide by the rules. But I found it interesting because you do have people throughout the years that said, when I do a lot of social justice things, I had videos on the killing of the black man, Du Bois Lister. I spoke out a lot. And in those videos that you don't really re-see, like you won't re-see this one, I spoke out about what I felt was when the pastors or churches did not want to speak out and they saw something bad. But yet many of them would say, or some would say, the only time we will, if you will disobey civil authorities, is if they tell us we can't preach the word or we can't meet. But yet some did obey those civil authorities, which I'm not saying they were wrong in obeying them. I'm saying some wouldn't speak out when there was injustice against people in the community. But then they were in that tension. Now what do we do? Now I'm not sure what the rule's going to be, but I felt that was part of what was going on, that people were tested. Are you willing to take a risk if you have a clear conscience in it? The other thing that happened in Texas, which I found was interesting, Hobby Lobby, as most people in our country know, is run by a Christian family, Christian organization. So they kept opening their stores, and they don't open on Sunday, but they had them open, I guess, during the week. And so out of Dallas, Texas, they said they're going to bring charges against Hobby Lobby. I found it interesting. I was in Walmart today. In Walmart, you can buy all crafts and goods and everything. But that Walmart, which is a competitor to Hobby Lobby, is permitted to sell. So people that want to buy all the things they would normally buy from Hobby Lobby, you're free to buy them whenever you want from Walmart. All during the crisis where the other stores are commanded to shut down. Then there was a comment I remember dealing with the local Nueces County judge where she made a comment, I remember seeing it. It said, oh, in churches, before they change the rule. Now, I don't know what Corpus Christi, Nueces County is going to do now. But they said, and if you're a church and you're doing video recording, you're also not allowed to have more than 10 people. So somebody must have said, oh, there's a church, and it might have been the one I go to. But there's a church and they have more than 10 people in there recording. Now, I felt like that was interesting because there's a lot of businesses that are allowed, maybe just a regular recording studio. They're still allowed to function with more than 10 people. It's just they can't be open to the public. So you had to be real careful dealing with, could we pick churches and say you can't have more than 10 people videoing, but you can have, whether it's a Walmart, which is deemed essential. Now I was in there today, just food shopping. Or other businesses. You're not telling all businesses. You're saying you're close to the public, but you're not saying you cannot have more than, quote, 10 people in the building. I believe the Kohler Times, which I've been critical of, and I still am, our local newspaper, are there not allowed to be more than 10 people in the building? You see, I know people felt like they're dealing with all of this in a righteous way. But when you begin showing bias in that way, my position would be, if the churches honestly want to follow, the guidelines, I'm not sure if they're going to change now, but if you had a conviction in the past and you said, we're going to only disobey if they tell us, well, some were tested, and I think some failed the test. I think some that would not speak out on many of the issues I spoke out on. Many. And those are the mad videos that I normally try not to replay unless they accidentally get replayed. Well, you had your test, and some of you failed. Some of you came up short because some made statements. We'll never speak out against local issues unless they ever tell us we can't preach. Now, I understand many of you are saying we're preaching through the medium I use, online. But at the same time, I think some failed the test. And the pastor in Robstown that stood up for his convictions, I'm not saying what he did was right or wrong. I'm saying his convictions were, it was his right to hold those services. Now, I think we should still all follow the guidelines, but it was a test in a way. It was a test in a way. So, we're commenting on it as just this one update. I believe that there's been a very big overreaction. Now, our economy, I have friends all over the world. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be on that other side I mentioned already. But our economy and unemployment and all is a lot worse than what we thought numbers came out today. And we have had viruses. We have had people. There are, just as a note, I think it's Sweden. There are some countries that are doing business as normal. If you're sick, how do we deal with viruses throughout our history? If you're sick, you go to the doctor. We tell you to stay away from people if it's a communicable type thing. And there are some countries that have decided to not shut anything down. And as of now, it doesn't seem as if they're doing a whole lot worse. There are some areas I recognize that are an outbreak because we were not familiar with what was going on. But if you look at it's a serious thing, don't get me wrong. But there are some places that are surviving just by the normal routine. Meaning if you're sick, okay, stay away, go to the doctor. We want to diagnose you. We're trying to develop things right now. I think there might have been some breakthroughs. And then you go home, you stay away. But some are not shutting everything down like other places are, or like the United States has kind of been going through. And so there is a question whether this is a very big overreaction that will indeed have real long-lasting effects. Look, the recession we're going to be in for sure. The question is whether it's a depression. So I wanted to do this update. I'm mad about what I mentioned in the beginning. I'm mad when there's a lot of dishonesty. And some of those sites, to be quite frank with you, I'm grateful I got a lot of friends. And some I could see. I don't talk. Like if people, that might offend people. So there's a lot of girls on sites and all. And today I gave one comment. A brother from Instagram. I'm building some new friends on Instagram. Instagram's limited to me because it's only under 10-minute videos. But he gave a good comment. He really liked the videos with my homeless friends, a Christian brother. And so the first time I think I ever responded, I said, thanks, brother. I just wanted to try to get that comment. So for tonight, I would say it's interesting what's happened. I think some ministers out of good conviction said we're going to, not hold services. But I think others failed the test in the sense that they might have said in the past, we're not speaking out on the issues that John speaks out on. I was upset at some of the churches. I always felt it was a bad testimony to have armed officers protecting the church. I always felt there was a bad testimony. When I go to the cathedral, I visit different ones, there are not officers there. at the Corpus Christi Cathedral, but yet a lot of others have armed men there, and I always felt nothing wrong against the cops. I just felt that was always a bad testimony, telling the public, well, God protects us from everything, but just in case things get out of hand, we need people with guns here. I always felt that was a bad testimony. And so I feel some have failed the test. And it's not because I said it. It's you, and you stand before God. I stand before God. It's because you knew in your heart. In the past, you had the position. If they ever tell me I can't, if you will preach the word, that's when you obeyed. I'm not saying you're wrong that you obeyed, but the one pastor at Robstown who had the same conviction as others had claimed to have, he passed the test. And it just so happened right after he passed the test, meaning they were going to bring charges against that pastor, then the governor came out. So now everybody that might be able to have their meetings, church meetings, for those that might see this in the future, the COVID-19 has caused many churches to just shut because they don't want any meetings more than 10 people. Though there's many places like Walmart and others that are deemed essential, and that's a contradiction though. There are people in there today buying all the things they'd be buying at Hobby Lobby. So you close down one competitor and you let the other one stay open. It's a lot of it is uneven. I know people are doing the best they can in these crises. So I'll do this update because I was upset. And I was upset because I have a lot of respect for my Russian friends. But there's only one site that ever, even I had a lot of problems with YouTube, but there's only one site that ever deleted everything. That was Vimeo. And the VK, I think they might have had some problem, but they don't communicate. They just, today, they won't let you upload. They give an authoritarian thing like, oh, it'll be up soon. That was dishonest. And I don't like pandering. So I love my friends, and that's the other thing, that the issue of how many pass the test. Maybe the Lord wanted some of you to stand up for your convictions more in meetings or in gatherings, doing it in a safe way, but maybe the Lord wanted, so now it's too late. In the sense, it looks as if churches, the governors basically said they can meet, even though, quote, the law was they can't, up until this, yesterday or today, the governor. So the pastor of Robstown passed. The others that did not meet, I know some did it out of good, honest convictions, but others I don't know about, because they claimed, we don't speak out against injustice like John wants us to. But if there ever comes a day where they tell us we're going to shut the church, then we'll speak out, and you didn't. So you stand before God, I stand before God. Right? So, I believe, being it's just an update, I believe the response, if you look at the history of civilization, how we've dealt with, we've had very bad things, the plague and all in the past. But the response for this, it's a dangerous thing. It might not be as lethal as some had thought. Politics plays a role, media plays a role in this country that I live in. And it's possible that we're going to have a really big crash in this country economically. And because you can't shut everything down during times of a crisis. You want to be safe. You want to be careful. But there have been viruses and sicknesses, and some much worse than the one we're dealing with now. And some countries have not really changed a whole lot. They're still dealing with the sick like you would normally deal with the sick. You're still dealing with the public in a regular, normal way. Okay? All right. God bless everybody. I'm not sure the next teaching I'm going to be doing. I do want all my friends on that site to know I do love you guys. But I didn't like the way they dealt with it. The way that site, VK, dealt with the video thing. Because I had that problem. They said, oh, it's taking time No, it's not. Just be upfront. You tell the truth. Some of these sites, and I'm okay with it in the sense that it's not temptation to me, but a lot of the sites, even the pictures of the profiles are basically porn. And that's why I had a lot of friends, and I don't judge those friends in the sense that they're coming in to view, and if they want to view our videos, I don't view theirs, but I could see, like, when I'm working with it. So it's an amazing thing that some sites have a standard where if you're preaching the gospel, that's too much for us. But you allow almost anything else to pass. You see? It's an uneven balance. Okay? I pray a blessing on all you guys, and we'll see next time we get to speak. God bless everybody.